There's something about Euphoria that keeps drawing us all back for more, even though the internet can't seem to decide if it's because the show is controversial in a good or bad way. In fact, the only thing we can agree on is that Zendaya deserves an Emmy for that latest episode. The one thing I see debated, over and over again, is whether Euphoria is glorifying drug use, and promoting sex as everything, in a positive or damaging way. While parents might be terrified that the show is about to turn their young adults into sex-crazed drug fiends, Gen Z thinks everyone should calm down. We chatted with Aussie General Zeds from all walks of life as part of our news chat panel, our project with the Judith Nielsen Institute, to hear what they think about the hype. Does Gen Z find the show realistic? First things first, while Euphoria does bring some issues to light that modern teens have to deal with, it's presented in a far from realistic way. The producers made it seem as if all young people do is participate in causal sex, recreational drug use and underage drinking. When we do so much more than that, and there is more to us. Ilamani. I don't believe Euphoria represents teenagers well at all. I remember watching the latest episode with my partner and saying to him, this is very realistic, if these were all 20-year-olds. Not to say this sort of stuff doesn't happen for teenagers, it does. But I only relate to it as someone in my 20s, and have only seen that sort of stuff happen to people who are no longer teens. Nick, I know it's described as a coming-of-age show, but I feel like it's one of those shows you watch in your mid to late 20s in retrospect of your teenage years. It just feels like the writers took every issue a teen could face, dialed it up to 11, and then put all of them in one place. I feel like there are other shows that deal with concepts like drugs, sex, and identity in a more relatable way. Aman, while the director has access to a diverse group of people, he has at times used that access to yet again tell people, who have that identity, how they should feel. I know that the director has been called out for his over-sexualization of Cassie's character. The actor apparently had to push back on requests for her to be topless in some scenes. Barbie Ferreira, who plays Kat, doesn't have many lines in Season 2 because there was allegedly an argument about her character development, being a plus-size woman and being typecast into that stereotype. Rachel, I don't think this show is necessarily addressing issues that young people live with as much as using them to shock the audience and boost ratings. Is Euphoria really going to influence a new generation? It seems like with each new generation, there's a new show that everyone is worried will be a bad influence, but are they ever? And is that a real concern with Euphoria, especially if Gen Z are easily able to recognize this doesn't reflect real life? I don't think any media influences kids nearly as much as people think. I did have experience with these themes as a kid, and it had nothing to do with TV shows. If anything, we all watched cartoons to take the edge off a lot of the stuff going on in our lives and the lives of our friends. Angus, it's trauma overload, and I would have no idea how to deal with that mentally if I were any younger than I am today. Amani, I know that teens can look at this and treat it like fiction and not be influenced. That being said, I remember when I was a teenager watching Dexter, that show taught me a colorful range of swears and younger me thought it was cool or funny. It's a mixed bag, because we also saw the effects of 13 Reasons Why and the fallout from that show airing. Nick, it was refreshing while also quite provocative at the same time. I would have liked to see some of the parents, or at least teachers, speaking about healthy boundaries and relationships since there are so many unhealthy ones in the show. Specifically Maddie and Nate's emotionally manipulative one, Rue and Jules' codependence, and Cassie's relationship with tying her self-worth to her body. Ilamani, is it really a show's responsibility to worry about its influence? So, while there's a mixed response to the idea that shows like Euphoria can have any real influence on young people's decision-making, is it even fair or realistic to expect shows to have to consider this? Euphoria is aimed at adults. The show cannot take responsibility for the actions of teens if it's not aimed at them in the first place. Parents and guardians are there to help teens understand what they're watching. I think if teens are watching Euphoria, use this as a time to open up dialogue with your parents and guardians about sex and drugs rather than compartmentalize it. Parents and guardians need to be open to those conversations with their kids, don't shut it down immediately. Actually have a dialogue about it, and show vulnerability to them on these topics. Teens are much more responsive to dialogue and relatability than no.